Shalom Israel, first and foremost, I want to say all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth in righteousness and sincerity. To you Israelite foreigners, come back home to the truth. To those that passed away serving the Lord, the dead in Yahweh Shai shall arise first. All right, I want to do this video going back into this book, Soldiers of God, Uncorrected Proof, White Supremacists and Their Holy War for America by Howard L. Bushert, John R. Craig, and Myra Barnes, Ph.D. All right, Ph.D. means she did her damn study. So, just to start off with, because we have to understand what the mentality of our enemy is, because these guys, even though they're a low level enemy, the white supremacists, hate groups, although they're a very low level enemy, they have certain ideas and philosophies that are kind of kin to ours. We have to know their doctrine. We have to know what they believe. Right? So it says here, first thing he says, Adam was not the first man. They know that Adam was not the first man. Right? Reading over here, they do kind of bullshit over here. It says the Hebrew word Adam, which is not true. It's Adawam, but it says Adam, rendered Adam in English, is from a root word meaning to show blood in the face or of a ruddy complexion. That's Adawam that they're really talking about. A word obviously not applicable to the dark races, which we know from scientific evidence to be much older than the white race. So they know that so-called black people were here first, right? So I'm not going to, waste too much time. I'm going to try to hit the main points, right? So it says the seed line faction of identity holds that Eve is tempted by Satan in human-like form. So they know that the Satan that beguiled Eve looked like a human, was a human. Even though they say, he was in human-like form. So I guess they don't really believe he was probably human, but probably looked human. But you get the point. But let's see. I want to get to the main points. I don't want to waste time here. All right, it says Eve conceives a child. This is the bullshit that they believe. Eve conceives a child of Satan as well as a child of Adam. So she believes that, they believe that Cain and Abel had two different fathers, born twins, but by different fathers. The enmity between the righteous seed of Adam and the evil seed of Satan is expressed in the first great act of violence in the Old Testament, the murder of Abel by his half twin brother Cain. So they believe Cain was righteous in murdering Abel. Look at that dumb shit. Look at that dumb shit that they believe in. When in that same book, it gets what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? In that same chapter, the Lord condemns Cain, but they say that was righteous. Now check this out. Cain's race bearing God's identifying mark, which is both a protection and a curse, settle in Edom. Remember, we teach that Edom is Cain's spiritual descendant, and his mixed race progeny of Esauites or Edomites. Then they come with the bullshit Canaanites, Kenites, and other names through the ages are dedicated to the destruction of the pure blood of Adam. So although they go into Canaanite, they try to say Canaanites are Edomites too, but no. They know that Cain is a spiritual descendant of the Edomites. Right? So that's very important to understand. So they believe that they are of Cain and they know that they are of Edom. But somehow they still think that they're Israel. Thus, Israel becomes the great Anglo-Aryan cultures of the world, which is true. The Anglo-Saxons were Israelites, the Hiberno-Saxons, the Goths, Visigoths, Ostrogoths. Well, no, I'm sorry. The Goths were both the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths. The Gauls, the Welsh, the Celts, all that. Those were Israelites. It says, thus Israel becomes the great Anglo-Aryan cultures of the world, fulfillment of Yahweh's promises through Abraham, a great nation and a company of nations would spread throughout the earth. So this is true. The so-called black Hispanics and Native Americans are the greatest people on the planet Earth, history. All right, so here it goes to say, identity maintains that no Jewish lineage can be traced unbroken back to the throne of David. So they know that the so-called Jews are fake. They're not the real Jews. So, but they never get on white supremacist hate groups for being anti-Semitic. They get on us for that now. So it says, none of the blessings of the greatness and nationhood given to the sons of Joseph fit the Jews in any sense of the word. Any thinking person must surely know that the Saxon nations have been and still are the recipients of all these blessings of heaven and earth. All right, it goes on to try to say that England is Ephraim and Manasseh is America, but, you get the point here. All right, reading on, page 56, Soldiers of God. Adamites have maintained the continuity of the throne of David. All the kings of Scotland and England and Ireland have been occupied by descendants of the house of David. Well, until the, period after the Renaissance. But anyway, and of course, it is Adamic Israelite stock, including the house of David, which initially colonized America, which is actually true. The Native Americans are of the house of David. Of the prophecies and promises made by Yahweh to Israel, all have been fulfilled among the Anglo-Saxon, Teutonic, and Scandinavian races, the original ones, but not the ones there now. All right, so moving on. All right, here's a few words that they break down properly. I don't know about how they break down Celt, but definitely Britain, the covenant land. Isaac's sons, Saxons. This one I'm not sure about. Celt, ancient stone knife used to circumcise Aryan babies. Therefore, Celtic refers to the circumcised people. I don't know about that. I think that's a stretch of reality. I'm going to look it up. But nonetheless, reading on. It might be in Britain, but I don't think so. Oh, this is talking about Jacob's stone. It says Jacob's stone, the stone of destiny, Salak, might have come to America for such a kingdom to be established, since it has accompanied the so-called lost tribes since the time of the Assyrian captivity. Who came here during the Assyrian captivity? The Native Americans and Hispanics ancestors. So, this book, it goes into stuff. Now, here goes something that they say that's stupid. Between 745 and 721 BC, the 10-tribe kingdom of Israel, house of Israel, are a large portion of the southern kingdom of Judah were taken into captivity. All right, which is cool. So far so good. But let's see. All right. Archaeological tablets found in excavations in Assyrian royal library at Nineveh have indicated that many of the Israelites escaped and traveled by way of the Caucasus Mountains. Hence the name Caucasians, into the steppes of southern Russia. So in other words, they're basically saying the fucking Genghis Khan in them was Israelites. Bullshit. Well, I'm going to read out the scriptures real quick, but first I'm going to finish this page. After a sojourn in Iberia, ancient Latin for Hebrew, an early name for Spain, eventually these Israelite people ended up in Hibernia, Gaelic for Hebrew, an early name for Ireland. So Ireland was settled by Hebrews, Spain was settled by Hebrews, thus setting the stage for the appearance of Irish kings and an Aryan kingdom. The Western movement was composed of members of the tribes of Judah and Dan. From Judah came the old Scottish kings of Ireland, which is true, not the new ones. From these tribes is traced the lineage of the royal house of England. All right, so let me just read up a little bit, because this is great here. Dan broke away from the others while they were still in Egypt and sailed away. This isn't all the way true. This isn't true at all. Sailed all the way to Greece, where he settled near Argos, became king, and renamed the people Danai. That part is true. The Danai were Israelites. The tribe of Dan settled on the seacoast and became a maritime migrating people who followed the custom of giving places and rivers their own name, made it easier to follow them through Europe, along the Danube, the Dnieper, the Don, the Rhodanus, ancient name of the Rhone, the Rhine, ancient name of Eridanus, until they arrived in Denmark and Scandinavia. Those were the northern Danites, the tribes that would become the Danes, the Vikings, the fierce Norsemen of Scandinavia, the Celts, the Giles, the Normans, the Goths, the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and the Picts and Scots. All right, let's see. No, that's about it. I'm gonna read out the scriptures though. Right. Second Esdras 13 and 40. Y'all know what this is. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasseh the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So this is a place where mankind never dwelt at. The Caucasus Mountains, I don't know if they were inhabited at that time, you know, but the steppes and all that shit, the steppes of Russia. Russia was actually, yeah, the Caucasus Mountains were inhabited by Japhet. So that wouldn't be the place where they went. They went to, you know, the only two options are Antarctica and the Americas. And this is a people that's used to heat. So America's clearly the better choice. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. So Euphrates is in the Middle East, in Babylon. So they came through Babylon. They didn't go through goddamn Europe. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. All right, so clearly, you know, the so-called black Hispanics and Native Americans are the children of Israel. You know, but anyway, reading on. Yeah, this goes into a lot of Dan, the Scythians. The Scythians were Israelites. These guys are saying that they were of the tribe of Dan. That's possible. You know, the great tribes of Europe were black people, ran by black people and everything. So-called black people. All right, page 72. Thus, in the 13th century, Scotland, not only was the Scots' Israelite identity known, but also the purity of their bloodline. So the Scottish were Israelites. Whites, and remember, this is a white supremacist book. And they think that these people that are there now are descendants of the Scottish. Scot means dark. How the fuck could it mean them? It says, we believe the white Anglo-Saxon, Germanic, and kindred people to be God's true literal children of Israel. False. You know, but this is what they believe. Let's see. John states, Cadillac John states, he will come with fire and sword, and I'll be right there with him in a body that cannot be killed. Because these guys somehow believe, well, they believe in a spiritual power, but they believe they're going to get it for some reason. Now, let's get deep into this. Koresh, David Koresh and company, not white, not identity Christians, but sharing some of the same beliefs. So Koresh, even though he wasn't an identity Christian, he shared some beliefs with white supremacists, were anything but passively contemplating the mysteries of faith. See, we Israelites, we're passively contemplating the mysteries of faith. They wasn't. It says, as they stockpiled arms against the persecution they knew would be coming from the satanic federal government. So white supremacists also are against the federal government, but they actually want to take up guns and fight them. So reading on, it says, it was, he told them, better they should all perish together rather than yield to the beast, the federal government of the United States. This is Waco, Texas, by the way. The government, it would seem, was willing to bring on the Armageddon that Koresh spoke of, and several identity Christians were among those in Waco observing from the sidelines. The federal government fully intends to strip us of our freedoms. White supremacists believe that. All right, so we have to understand the mentality of our enemy. These guys are still our enemy. You know, I have spent my whole life fighting against the Jew and the nigger. J.B. Stoner announces by way of introduction to a gathering of white supremacists in 1993. Stoner was at one time the defense attorney for James Earl Ray, the convicted assassin of Dr. Martin Luther King. Last thing I'm going to read in this book, it says, when times become hard enough, the sleeping giant of the Aryan will awaken to claim his true heritage. When enough white businesses are closed, when enough white people are clogging the unemployment lines, while non-whites are working at the jobs that whites once held, when enough dark faces invade his neighborhoods with drugs, perversions, and alien ways, then true revolution will occur. So that's the last thing I want to leave it at. You understand that these people feel that they're fighting a holy war against particularly the American government and the so-called Jews, but they believe that we're kind of like the benefactors of this somehow. I don't know how. I don't know how they think that, you know, that we're overtaking them when white supremacy is clearly, you know, the law of the land, basically. You know, so-called white pedophiles and perverts, you know, they don't get thrown in jail and their legacies destroyed. So-called black people do, you know. But with that, I'm going to say shalom.